You're live, Max.
All right. If I can do it, what's your excuse? What's holding you back or what's stopping you? Go on and do it. What's there to lose? If I can do it, what's your excuse? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the blind blogger Maxwell Ivy, and this is another episode of What's Your Excuse, where I interview people who have overcome adversity in hopes that they will help you overcome the excuses that are holding you back. And you can find the podcast at theblindblogger.net. You should also know that I am now also offering services as an accessibility advisor, writing, speaking, consulting, and podcasting. And if you want to know more about that, you can go to my other website, theaccessibilityadvantage.com. So today I'm very blessed, honored, and just a little bit in awe of my guest, Cheri Carandanis. She had a 25-year career as a nurse, including time spent as a part of a critical care air team nurse for the United States Air Force. Then in 2019, she had a traumatic brain injury that caused an end to her career. With her nursing career over and her her emotions in tatters, she picked up a paintbrush, and what she thought was something she was doing in desperation would become a lifeline. She is now a professional abstract artist who specializes in works having to do with resilience, transition, and colliding with beauty in the state of chaos. And I'm sure I got some of that wrong, but I'm close on most of it. Y'all can find her at carandasfineart.com. Cheri, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Welcome to What's Your Excuse?
Thanks, Max. I loved your intro song. So good.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. The song came before the podcast, but people seem to like it. I keep doing it. The only thing I've been told is to let people who haven't seen the podcast before know it's going to happen when I publish things on the internet. So glad you enjoyed it, but
I
based
like
on our based on our previous conversation, I was pretty sure you would. You just seem like a really happy, positive person who is at that point in their lives where they
FaceTime is launched in the
find
background.
joy in just about everything. So really glad that you're joining me today. So I would love for you to share some of what your life was like before the traumatic brain injury so we kind of get a comparison.
Okay. So, backing up, you mentioned that I was in the military, and that was early on in my nursing career. And so I was trained in the ICU in the military, and then they did train me to become a critical care air transport nurse. So that was me being a part of a team with an intensivist doctor, a critical care nurse, which was me, and then a respiratory therapist. And we were able to set up little mini ICUs in opportune aircraft. So whatever aircraft was available to us, we could kind of move our patients in and have little ICUs in the air so that we could save more lives. And so we were trained in that before 9/11. And then when 9/11 happened, that's kind of when we went live in a wartime situation. And so I was deployed to Afghanistan and in that area of the world, and was able to really have the honor of my life in serving our troops and trying to get these men and women home back to their families and their loved ones. So I did do that. I did the military for about 6 years. And then I made the choice to separate from the military because I had just gotten married and we wanted to have children, and it was just too painful for me to see my friends leaving their babies when we had to get deployed, and I just didn't want that for myself or for my husband, and so I did separate and worked in the IC a little bit more. But then we decided to move to Portland, Oregon, where my husband's family lives, and he grew up, and we had our two boys here, and I kind of felt like I was a little burnt out of the ICU scene, that high adrenaline type work, which I loved and I learned so much. And I love being a part of those teams, but it was starting to wear on me. And I, without any plan in place, I fell into hospice work. And so that was a diversion in my career that I didn't see coming, but I am so grateful that it happened, because learning about hospice work and being present with the families and our patients in that really precious and sacred time was another honor for me. And so I did hospice nursing for about 15 years and kind of played with my career and was very creative with it so that I could be home with our boys as much as I could. So nursing really did afford me that opportunity. So we raised our boys. I was very much a part of, the whole, I was on the PTO board. I was very active at our church. I was Sunday school teacher. I did little mini triathlons. I was a black belt in Taekwondo. I was doing it all, and we had so much fun. And I was very much a go-getter. I was very much a left brain type of person, kind of structured and organized and kind of type A. And then, as you mentioned, in 2019, everything changed. I suffered 2 brain injuries, and they were 6 months apart. One was from a fall, and the second one was a result of a car accident. So after that, I assumed I would just rehab and, be fine. And as the months and then the years started ticking by, I realized that that wasn't going to be the case, that brain injuries can be devastating. And although the brain is very neuroplastic and can heal, it does take time. It takes a lot of time to heal. So in 2020, I had to make the really hard decision to retire my nursing license, which it threw me into a deep, dark hole. I was lost. I didn't know what my purpose was here anymore. I mean, of course, I had my children and I had my husband, our family, and they were so loving and supportive, but I wasn't the capable person that I was. I was having to be cared for instead of providing care. And that shift in my identity was really painful, really, really painful. And so I went through a time of depression and anxiety, and my family were doing the best they could in caring for me and getting me to all my appointments and getting me to rehab as much as possible. But it was a very difficult and challenging time for all of us, not just me. And then I was at an appointment one day, and one of the doctors mentioned, Cheri, you have the majority of your brain injuries a left brain injury. And that's why you're having such a hard time negotiating the world, because you really did live in the left side of your brain. We need to get kind of into the right side of your brain and wake things up, like try to wake up the right side of your brain. And because it's not injured, let's try to get some neural pathways and some neural connections happening. And I didn't know what that meant or what that looked like. And so they said, well, right side is presence, intuition, mindfulness, creativity. And I thought, like, what language are you speaking? I don't know what that looks like in real life. And so one doctor just said, Cheri, maybe just start with a coloring book and see what that does. And so I got a little mandala coloring book and colored for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. And I hated every second of it and ended up ripping up the coloring book and throwing it away. And I was so frustrated. And honestly, I have to admit that I was so offended. Like, I'm a master's prepared nurse. Like, you're going to tell me I'm going to color for the rest of my life? Like, that's not real. Like, that can't happen. And so I was just so angry and so bitter. But then one day I was watching YouTube, and I saw this woman painting on a big canvas. It was like a 4 foot by 4 foot canvas, and she was painting abstractly. And for whatever reason, it made a lot of sense to me. I knew that she wasn't painting things that I could recognize. She was painting her feelings. And I don't know, something just clicked. It clicked in me. And I thought, well, I'm going to, because that looks creative. That looks like something the right brain might get interested in doing. And
Uh-huh.
so I got some cardboard out and some of my kids' school paints that we had at the house. And I just started painting on this piece of cardboard. And I just loved it. I loved it. It's like I got addicted to the feeling of not caring. Like when I would paint, I didn't feel like I had a brain injury because it was just free. There was no expectations there. I didn't have to be good at it. No one was going to see it. So I just kept doing it over and over and over and over again until my husband was like, Cheri, this is, kind of bringing back a little spark in your eye. Like, let's buy canvases, like real canvases and real paints, and maybe you'll enjoy that. And so we did. And he just went all in. He went all in with me and got me whatever supplies I needed. And I really just thrived in that space of creativity because what that taught me was all about my intuition. It taught me all about meditation, even, and how to access that part of me that's been there my whole life. Our intuitions and our inner voices, they've been there our whole lives, but often we ignore it and we just push it to the side and let our intellect kind of take over. At least that is exactly what I did. And when all of that kind of got destroyed in the brain injury, it just created this vacuum for where intuition could step forward, and I could start developing a relationship with my intuition, which in order to trust your intuition, you have to have a relationship with it and spend time there. And so in order to do that, I had to learn about meditation and mindfulness and presence and being calm and still and quiet and not feeling like I had to do all the time. And so all of these teachers started appearing in my life in the form of podcasts and books and YouTube channels. And I just was so hungry for it. And it didn't make any sense to me as to why I would be, but I was. And so I just kept learning. And as I kept painting, my friends and family said, you're kind of getting good at this. Like, maybe you should sell some of your work. And I thought that was absurd and the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard, that someone would pay money for something that I did as survival. Honestly. It was just my survival and my therapy on canvas. And I didn't know if it looked good or not. I just knew it felt good in my body to do it. And so that's what I did. But as my friends and family encouraged me, I thought, that's maybe the next brave thing, is to put myself out there and to show up in this world still as Cheri Carandanis, still me, but different, because I was definitely a different version of myself. And I can say now today, now I did start my business in 2023. It's Carandanis Fine Art. I have sold paintings. I have exhibited my paintings. My paintings have won awards. So it's unbelievable to me sitting here today that these things are happening. But I can say that I'm so grateful that brain injury happened. I couldn't say it for a long time. I was so bitter. And resentful. But today I can say I'm so grateful it happened, because it's introduced me to this version of me that is just so much happier and so much more content, and is so open to seeing the beauty in this world and experiencing that. And so that's why you said I'm a happy person, and I really am. I am a happy person.
Yeah. So this last part here, as you're talking about this, you're talking about how you can say you're thankful for the accidents. You're well, I guess it's been about maybe getting close to 20 years ago now. After the death of my father, there were people in the extended family who were all in the same business. We were all in the carnival business, and my cousin took steps that helped to force me out of the amusement industry, where I was no longer in that business, and caused me to have to find something to do of my own, which is when I started my first website, brokering used amusement park and carnival rides. And if it was a couple of 3 years down the road, I was able to say, I'm happier. I'm doing something that I can take pride in. And of course, the
Wow.
carnival stuff has led to other stuff. But in my first book, I made the point of saying that I don't think he'll ever want to sit down and have that conversation about how I can be grateful for what he did. But I was willing to put it in the book, because I needed to say it. So
Wow.
I feel like it's great that you can say this, but I think it's even more important that you show people the example of that if they will lean into the results of the trauma, they can get to the point where they can be thankful for the trauma. They can be happy for what it has taught them and
Yes.
for giving them a different path that may be better than the path that they were on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like you said, trauma does happen in our lives to teach us. It's not comfortable. It's painful. It's not fun at all. It's very difficult. But if we can bring ourselves to a place of being taught by that trauma and becoming a student of it and studying it, it does open up so many opportunities we couldn't have even imagined. I could have never imagined this, and I'm sure you couldn't have imagined where you are at the time.
Look, look, in 2007, I thought I was capable of doing one thing, helping other people sell used rides. And now I'm at that point where I have to tell people, no, I probably could do what you're saying I should try doing, but I got other things that I'm focused on doing right this minute. It's not a good fit for. I mean, it's really humbling when I think about him. In the last 20 years, I've gone from thinking I was capable of nothing to thinking I was capable of
Mm,
only one thing,
mhm.
to finding out that I'm capable of so many things. I have to say no to some of them now.
Isn't that crazy? That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's
Yes.
abundance. That's what abundance feels like.
Yeah. It is what abundance, but we can only have abundance when we stop feeling like somebody else having abundance means we have to have lack.
Yeah. And when we stop, I had to really come out of the mindset of being a victim. Like, why did God let this happen to me? Why did this, I was so victimized by what happened. And, I had to get to a place where I was like, no, I'm going to take the bull by the horns and I'm going to ride this sucker. like, and I'm going to have a good time doing it. And so
Well,
when we get,
thankfully, your ride is lasting more than 8 seconds.
yes, that's so true. I'm still riding for now.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm sure being an artist is just as unpredictable as being on the back of a 2,000-pound steer.
Yes, because
Not
it is
that I've ever
terrifying.
not that I've ever done that, but my cousin has. So
Oh my goodness. I can't imagine how terrifying that would be to be on such an animal. But being an artist for me has been terrifying because it means putting myself out there and being so vulnerable, and people get to say whatever they want. Whereas as a nurse, you're either a good nurse or a bad nurse. And I was a really good nurse. And so I was confident in that.
yeah,
But as an artist, I don't know. Someone could love it and someone could be like, what is that? I don't get it.
in fact, I would say it's even, being an artist has to be one of the worst things you could have chosen for yourself, given where you came from, because not only is you're either a good nurse or a bad nurse, but the standards as to what a good nurse is are very clearly
Yes.
defined and
Yes.
easy to determine whether or not your nurse is
That's
meeting what's
right.
considered the standards of a good or excellent nurse.
Yes.
The art world, you're basically asking people to be critical of your work, and I hate to
Yep.
say this, there are people out there in the world who enjoy being critical, even mean,
Yes.
as just their reason for getting up in the morning.
Yep. And I find that when you go into a creative career like this and we spend our time in creativity, a lot of people feel resentful towards me because I think everyone wants to be able to do that. Who doesn't want to sit around and do something creative all day? And I think there's maybe pieces of them that would love to do that, but they just haven't found the opportunity or the courage, because it is scary. It's really
Very
scary
scary.
to
Yes.
do it. But once you face the tiger and become friends with it, it's a lot of fun.
We both have an advantage. Understanding how you feel about it, you have the advantage that your brain injury basically gave you a certain level of freedom once you got past the depression, gave you a certain level of freedom that most people will never have. And
Mm,
I've experienced that as well because, as many of my closest friends will say, Max, what makes your story compelling is you have a great excuse. If you decided you did not want to do anything with your life but watch
mhm,
television and eat junk food, you could do that and nobody'd say nothing about it. So
yeah.
we have the freedom, my case of a vision loss due to hereditary condition, and you due to brain trauma, that gives us freedom other people just don't have.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be able to really, one thing I had to learn through brain injury is to really listen to my body and to draw really firm boundaries so that I could preserve my neurological energy, my physical energy, my spiritual energy, emotional. I had to really learn that I can't do it all. I have to preserve all of those levels of energy so that I can function at my highest level on a daily basis. So, yeah, I play the brain injury card a lot when I'm like, "Hey, I just can't. I can't," and so
It's
saying
not
no is a lot easier.
it's not playing the card when you have a legitimate need to say no. It's playing the card when you do it when you feel like you could do it, you just don't want to.
Okay, then I'm not playing the card. I just literally can't.
There you go. There you go. There you go. You know. This is one of the things. Of course, I am a. I've one of the things my good friend Alex Sanfilippo at podmatch.com, one of the things he's been working with me on for a long time is focus and eliminating some of the things, or let's for use of a better phrase, let's say saying no to certain things has been one of the things he's really working with me on. So how do you get to the point where, I would imagine coming out of the brain injury and finding something that opened you up the way painting did, how do you go from that to making these boundaries and telling people no, even if you have to fib to them a little bit?
Yeah. I think what I learned, was I need to take a beat before I answer. I don't just
Okay.
answer right away because I know that my old way of doing is saying yes to everything and figuring it out later, because I needed to feel needed by everyone and important. So now I just take a beat and I ask myself, is it going to serve me? Because I am replaceable. I am replaceable. I am not the only person that can do all these things. That I learned when I had the brain injury happen, and my family and this house continued on. I did not have to be running everything and, telling everyone what's for dinner and what they can wear and how to buy it. I didn't have to do that because you know what? I, I am not that important. I'm important to my family because they love me and I love them. But as far as the doings and these tasks, we're replaceable, And so I really had to learn that and to be more collective in our goals as a community, as a family, and not be so individualistic, like I'm just going to do it all. And so saying no now, I just have to ask myself, is it going to serve me? And that is hard when I never really paid attention to what served me. I just needed to take care of everyone in my life and make sure everyone was good. I never asked myself, well, is this good for me? I just figured if I can do it, I'm going to do it. But now I understand. I understand on a deep level that if I don't pay attention to what is good for me, then I'm not going to be able to serve others in a really authentic way.
Right. And that is a perfect answer. It works great for you and your family, but there are going to be people watching us who are going to say that would never work for them. So I'm wondering if we could maybe add a second part to that and say,
Mhm.
first, ask yourself, does this serve me? And then, second,
Yeah.
ask yourself, if after taking the time to really consider it, is this one of those things where even though it may not serve me, I may have to do it anyway?
Yeah, of course. Of course, there are those situations. But I think we often make a story in our mind of how it needs to be done and how perfect it needs to look and how, high level it needs to be. And so being kind to ourselves and say, okay, if I do need to do this thing, this task, there isn't just one way to do it. There's a way to do it where I can preserve myself in the doing.
Yeah, I kind of run it. I do that a lot when I'm trying to accomplish things that are difficult or that I don't have the resources for. I find that the best way to get help with those is to not make up in my mind how they will be accomplished or performed. It sounds like you're saying something similar to that.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't need to know the how all the time.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and I run into this in the field of accessibility. I find a lot of companies are more resistant because somebody is telling them specifically how they have to accommodate a given
Hmm.
person instead of saying this is what our end goal is and how would you help us achieve that end goal. So as a mother and as a spouse, you've managed to figure out a way to make that work for you in those times where you have to go ahead and do it anyway.
Exactly. And I lean on on resources and the experience of others. Like when you talk about accessibility and there's resistance there, when someone with experience, like yourself, says, this is the best way to do it, and there's resistance there, they're not leaning into their resources and they're not leaning into your professional opinion. And so
Yeah.
they're spinning their own wheels trying to recreate the wheel. And it's like, wait, I have some answers here. And so I had to learn that. I had to humble myself and say, other people have other ways of doing the same thing. And I was just doing it in a way that made things really difficult for me.
Okay. So do you have an example of something where you allowed the other person to come up with the how and it resulted in a good solution for you?
Yeah, how to run my house. I was so, I don't know, I was just so regimented and stressed out all the time about how clean it was and it took other moms in my life to say, let that go. Let it go. You can sit there and try to do it, because doing dishes was very difficult for me early in my brain injury. And I would spend 20 minutes doing dishes and then I would have to sleep for 4 hours. And I was like, this cannot be worth it. This cannot be worth all that energy to sleep for 4 hours after doing 20 minutes of dishes. And so, listening to people that love me and that did do things in a more efficient way, saving it till the end of the day, not doing it throughout the day, um, asking your teenage boys to actually help, and having them participate in the household duties and not being upset when they didn't do it the way I did it. I had to let go of a lot of my perfectionism, because that was huge, a huge part of my personality, and my performance, to be accepted. And so, yeah, I leaned into other moms and other people in my life that had really good advice. And then I had to do the work, though, to learn how to let that stuff go. Because it's not just a choice like, okay, I'm just not going to worry about it anymore. That doesn't happen that quickly. You have to do
Yeah.
the work and ask myself, well, why did I need it to be perfect? Why did it have to look
Yeah.
so perfect? And that's just a whole rabbit hole of of self work that needed to be done for me.
Right. So just like the remapping of your brain took lots of effort and lots of time for the physical trauma, same thing applies to relearning how you deal with everyday tasks like house
Right.
cleaning.
Right. Grocery shopping, house cleaning. I had to listen to my occupational therapists, and they had such great ideas that I wouldn't have ever thought of on my own, because I only know how to do things the way I do them. And so there are so many resources and there are so many people willing to help. make your life easier. And so I
Right.
was grateful for all of my, resources.
All right. Well, if there are any local organizations you want to give a mention to at this point, you're more than welcome to do that, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, the this is Western medicine failed me in my brain injury recovery because they just said, well, you have a concussion or a brain injury and, nothing's really showing up on scans. So you seem depressed. Here, we're going to give you some antidepressants and you're just going to have to get used to the new normal. And I couldn't accept that. It just seemed absurd to me that you would just accept that when I knew that the brain was healable. And if you have a brain injury or a concussion type injury, find a functional neurologist. Find a functional neurologist. Here in my area was Dr. Glenn Zielinski at Northwest Functional Neurology, and they saved my life. They saved my life. They're the ones that got my brain healing again and set me on the right path. And so if you struggle with any type of brain injury, or even if it's, whether it was by an accident or by a stroke or whatever it is, functional neurology will change your life. It's an amazing place to go and teach your brain to relearn how to live your life in the best way that you can.
You mentioned Western medicine. A few years ago, I was having regular knee pain, and
Mm,
after several MRIs and X-rays and other things, that they kept telling me there was nothing wrong with my knee.
mm,
And it was funny at that time. I go to a clinic that is a teaching clinic, and every few years you get a new doctor because your current doctor graduates from their residency and goes off somewhere else. I got a new doctor, and he said, Mr. Ivy, has anybody ever asked you if it could be musculature, in
mhm,
the muscles, not in the bones or the joints?
mhm.
I said, nobody had ever asked that question. And I said, well, why didn't the orthopedist ever ask that question? He said, Mr. Ivy, orthopedists lose interest if they can't cut on you.
Wow.
I'm like, that may be true, but are you sure you're supposed to be saying that? But he asked me the right question. He forwarded me to a physical therapist. The physical therapist said I had horrible muscle tone in my
Oh, wow.
quads and my glutes. And
Mhm.
while I'm still not in real good health, by
Uh-huh.
improving the muscles in the quads and the glutes, it took strain off the knee, and I no longer have any.
Yes.
So
Oh,
so sometimes the over specialization or
yeah.
of the of the medical profession, and I'm not saying don't see doctors, but
No,
you
absolutely.
mentioned, you mentioned this earlier. You said you have to pay attention to your body,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and at the time I thought you were referring to your brain trauma issue and recovery, but that applies to pretty much all aspects of your physical, mental, and emotional well-being.
Everything. Everything. I don't know if you've heard of or read the book, The Body Keeps the Score. That's kind of where I learned about this, like paying attention to your body, because, even during certain emotional triggers, I might feel pain in a certain part of my body. And it never really made sense to me and I ignored it. But then when you start to pay attention to what your body is telling you, your body keeps the score. It remembers trauma. Our cells have memory. And so if we pay attention to our body, many times the answers are right in our body. Your answer for your knee pain was in your body. It was the muscle. It was having to strengthen those muscles. And then it was going to alleviate your pain in your knee, which makes so much sense. But like you said, like, Western medicine, and I'm not demonizing Western medicine. Obviously, I was a nurse in Western medicine for decades. I'm just saying that sometimes it's so quick to jump to surgery or medications when there might be other alternatives that could really give you a better outcome.
Yeah, yes, I agree with you on that. When the orthopedist couldn't fix my knee, both times they prescribed steroids, and I know the dangerous potential side effects of steroids. So I
Yeah.
had no interest. I had no interest in doing that long term.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That was good that you listened to because obviously there are times that you need steroids or medication. I do take some medication. But I had to really figure out, is it really necessary? And can I try some other things first to see? And so I think we just need to take control of our healthcare and really surround ourselves with a good team of people that have our best interests at heart.
The other really important part of this is not only do we have to listen to our body, and not only do we have to pay attention when we're speaking to our doctors, but we have to be completely honest and open with our doctors, our medical team,
Yes.
regardless of who that may include, because quite often people go to professionals and they don't give them all the information. They feel like they're pressured by time, or
Yes.
that they'll be shamed. And so there are things that their doctor needs to know that maybe they're not telling their doctor, or things that they know but they don't want to admit to themselves. All of that stuff has to come into this conversation.
Absolutely. If they don't know, if they don't have the whole picture, if they don't have all of it, then how can they make a good decision or a good diagnosis or a good prescription? And as you know, having been a part of medical teams for so many years, that was crucial to get the big picture, to get the whole picture and understand that person.
Right. Well, I'm really enjoying talking with you today. I'm with Cheri Carandison.
Carandanis. Carandanis.
Carandandis.
Mhm.
I ain't never gonna get that one right. I can get some of it. And you know, she had a 25-year career as a nurse, and that was brought to an end by traumatic brain injury. And because of the process of healing from the brain injury, she discovered her love for and talent for art, and now she's doing her best to bring awareness to resilience. And one of the things I loved about your bio is when you talk about the purpose of your art, you say it's not just about making beauty; it's about making meaning,
Mm,
starting connections, and bringing hope.
yes. Yes. I don't want the viewers of my art to stand in front of it and say, "Oh, it's so pretty." Like I don't want that. I want them to feel something. I want them to react to something. I want them to even put their hands out and touch the canvas and feel the texture of the canvas, the rise and fall of all the brush strokes. And I want that kind of experience, where something is tapped in their emotional, body or in their spiritual body. And so my art is not about being pretty. It is about connecting. It really is. That is my goal with every piece when I put it out there in the world, is that it will connect with someone, and that connection will bring them some hope. And through hearing my story, I mean, my story is not, special. We all have our stories. Everyone is going through things in life, but we need to know that there's hope and there's resilience and that there's the other side.
Right. So, in this vein of creating connection and sharing the message more so than just pretty artwork on the wall, I did visit your website, and I love the videos on there where you also let people know visiting your website that you want this to be the case, and people can hear the sincerity in your voice both now and on your website.
Mm.
But as far as communicating and connecting, before we scheduled this interview, I asked you to pick a piece from your collection and try to do a audio description of it like they would have in the major prestigious museums or some of the galleries where art would either have a braille or a audio
Yes.
description telling somebody with vision loss what they would be seeing if they were seeing it.
Yes. And Max, I have to tell you, when you asked me to do that, my initial reaction was like, "Oh goodness, that seems so hard." It seems like it's going to be, especially because I paint abstract. I'm not going to
Yes, yeah,
You would be looking at a dog sitting by a window. And so,
yeah.
but I did lean into it, and it was such a beautiful exercise. And I have gone to museums since our last conversation. And when I go to those museums now, I think, oh my gosh, even the sighted would gain so much benefit from
Yes,
reading a
yes.
description.
Yes.
It's for everyone. It's not just for someone that can't see it. It's for even everyone to, I don't know, just get a
Oh,
different.
you are 1,000% correct, and you are speaking to the message that I would deliver if this were my accessibility podcast, which is that
Mm,
accessibility benefits everyone. That when
yes.
we improve access, we improve the enjoyment of everybody, especially those who don't have disabilities. So I love
Yes.
that this just came from your experience thinking
Yeah.
about describing one of your own paintings. I
Yeah.
couldn't do a better job of sharing my message if I had written it for you. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Which you did not.
No, I did not. It's obvious I didn't write it for you because I would have used a lot more words. I have trouble with brevity. Ask anybody, they'll tell
Oh,
you, Max.
goodness.
It's been my word of the year since 2019. I still ain't got there.
You have a lot to say, Max. It's fine.
Maybe.
Okay, so
I'm just a storyteller who has trouble with the old line. It would be great if you used one word instead of 10. I'm kind of like I'm going to use 10 instead of three. You know,
that's your prerogative. You can do that.
yeah. I'm having to eventually get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is who I am. This is what people love. Why should I be trying to change? You know what I
That's
mean?
right. Lean into that.
Lean
Lean
into it.
into
Yeah, lean into the long-winded storyteller, larger-than-life character from East
it.
Texas. There you go. I like
Yeah.
that. I have had people who have heard me do my intro. They're like, Max, are you sure you're not one of those mythical characters we hear about from Texas?
You might be. You might be.
And by the way, for full disclosure for y'all, I want to let y'all know I did not. I missed the fact that that Cheri's primary medium is abstract art, or I probably wouldn't have asked her to do this assignment. So let's make sure we do this before we run out of the time we allotted for you, because I hate abusing other people's time. So
Of
could we have the
course.
title and then your description, and then
Sure.
just some of your thoughts about the work itself, because I know you wanted to communicate a message beyond just its appearance.
Sure. Okay, so the title of this piece that I chose is called Manifesto. This is a large square painting, 4 feet by 4 feet, and it carries a weight that you can almost hear. The background is layered with smoky grays, off-whites, and deep charcoals, like weathered stone walls, scraped and scarred. Across the haze, rough, box-like outlines overlap each other in dark green, their edges uneven, hand-drawn, and imperfect. They lean and stack as if trying to build structure out of chaos. Cutting through all of this are thick slabs of burnt orange. They press up against the grays like glowing embers forcing their way through ash. The orange is scraped, rubbed, layered. It doesn't sit quietly. It pushes forward. Around and beneath it, faint scribbles and looping graphite marks crawl across the canvas like handwriting that's been half erased but still insists on being read. The painting holds both open space and density. Some areas breathe with pale whites and soft smudges, while others are heavy, packed with dark shadows and restless marks. It's a battlefield of silence and noise, order and rebellion, all contained in one surface. Manifesto, it's not decorative, it's confrontational. It's a raw, urgent call to authenticity, scratched and scarred, but standing bold and impossible to ignore.
Wow. Okay, first, the the depth of detail in the description is just awesome. But even beyond that, especially on top of that, is the lyrical poetry of your words, girl.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, that's the kind of description that you put that on an audio tape with a little bit of music behind it, and people are going to stand there and press play more than once.
You know, you're just giving me an idea for my social media. Maybe that's what I need to be posting is, a video of that piece, like kind of going over that piece, and then me doing a voiceover with the music in the background. Thank you, Max.
Well, I have lots of ideas when I'm not trying to have them. So, but I tell you what, I've started the practice of sending my guests the video recording in case they want to use it, and so I'd be more than happy to do that. And you could, because I don't edit things real good, but you're more than welcome to clip out the description that you did of Manifesto.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
Thank
say
you.
one more thing here, and most people are going to be surprised to hear me say this, but I feel like I'm almost always honest, but I feel like there are certain people who, when I'm in their company, I can say things about myself that I would probably filter out.
Mm.
As I'm hearing you describe Manifesto, I'm seeing a lot of myself in it.
Oh, Max, that's like music to my ears. That's the best thing I could hear. It's the best thing I can
You know, the it's just some of the writing is there, but it's been wiped over, but it's still
hear.
readable. You know,
Yeah.
the it's not pretty. It's raw. It's meant to. You know, it's just it's one of those things I'm gonna if you, like I say, if you do clip it out, send me just that audio, because it's one of the things you like to hear. I'd like to play, you know, again in the future. So,
Yes.
but yeah,
Yes.
I mean, one of my favorite old time radio shows is a show called Broadway My Beat. And
Uh-huh.
while the language isn't poetry, you know, not the rhythm and rhyme, the rules of poetry, the language on that show is very lyrical.
Mm.
And your description was very image heavy and very lyrical.
Mm.
I tell you, if I were an artist and I were about to release my art into the world, you would be the person I would want to write my descriptions.
Oh. Thank you. I don't know if because I'm so passionate about my art and this because I did, I spent hours fighting with this canvas that it comes out in my writing.
Well, I don't want you to spend hours fighting with a description of the canvas too. That would make it hard to make a living.
No, it's not the description. The descriptions come out easy, but it's the hours I
Okay.
spent painting.
All right. All right. So
Yeah.
where exactly do you strictly display something I should have asked you before? Do you strictly display your work online, or do you also have an in-person space?
Most of it is online, but I am starting to show in local galleries. So right now I'm waiting to hear back from a few galleries that I have submitted to. So if you are on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, it's Carandanis Fine Art. So I'm always posting updates on where I will be exhibiting. Um, Hopefully within the next year, I will do my own solo show. That's a goal of mine, is to do my own solo show. And so, yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be exciting.
Yeah. See, you're with your the creative side of your work. You're moving towards the solo show. I'm trying to talk people out of the idea that someday I'll have an album. I'm really working hard to squash that one.
Why?
Because I don't have the time. I write about one song a year. I don't have the time to do it. I do not have the time in my life to do a podcast and an album and help people with their accessibility. And I
You
mean,
know, but you're only human, Max. You're right. You're
yes,
only
yeah,
human.
yeah. You know, and on a show called "What's Your Excuse," I have to remind myself that these are not excuses, and
Right.
it's really, it can be really challenging. I think you would agree with it. It can be really challenging when you become accomplished
Yes.
to say no.
Yes. Yes. But it's so important. It's so important. So good
Yeah.
for you.
Yes, saying no to some things allows us to say yes to more important, more rewarding things.
Well, I know that
We need,
when you say no to something, you are saying yes to something else.
yeah,
It's inevitable.
yeah, yeah. So, um, since I keep saying it wrong or incorrectly, remind people of the name of your website and the URL, and
Yep.
then maybe if you will have a final thought for the audience, I'd appreciate that.
Sure. So my website is carandanisfineart.com. And so that's CARANDANIS carandanisfineart.com. And it's the same, my handles are the same on social media, Carandanis Fine Art. And you'll find all the information there. Everything that I have to offer is on the website.
Yeah. You'll also get the chance to listen to some of her YouTube videos that she's embedded into her website that are really cool too.
Yes, that's a new thing that I was able to learn how to do. So that's been fun. What I want people to go away from this conversation with is that hope is alive, and that we are not meant to walk this journey alone. You have to find your people, find your tribe, and really lean into what is true and not what you imagine or want to be true right now. I am a big dreamer. I have big dreams for myself, but I also am really committed to leaning into what is true for me right now and being able to sit in that. And what helps me with that is my people and my tribe. But the hope that comes out of being present and being able to sit in what your life looks like right now, as painful as it might be, or as dark as it might seem, the hope is alive. That's even in my art, it could be dark, it could be raw, it could be, a lot of graffiti type marks, but there's always embers of hope throughout my art. And that's because I believe in that so much. That hope is alive, and it's there to serve us in our life.
Well, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. For those of you who have joined us, I'm sure you've really enjoyed this as well, and I hope you learned something from it. You can find she just gave you her information. You can find me at theblindblogger.net. And if you want help considering ideas on accessibility for your product, services, or content, you can go to the accessibilityadvantage.com. And since I feel like both of us have been through this, where it's a matter of taking those small steps and beginning where you are with some hope. I know that most of y'all probably don't listen this far, but I'm gonna finish today with my "Don't Wait on Someday" instead of "What's Your Excuse?" Because I think, and especially the fourth verse, which reminds people that even I struggle with this sometimes. So thank y'all for joining us. Hope you take care of yourselves out there now. I had this song in my heart and thought it could be great. That put more pressure on me, making me want to wait. Then I took some good advice and shared it anyway. This song couldn't change any lives if I kept saying someday. 'Cause you'll never have enough courage. You'll never have enough time. You'll never have enough money. You'll never have enough spine. Just do it as good as you can, and do it better the next time. 'Cause if you're waiting on that someday, you'll be waiting the rest of your life.
Item chooser menu, 169 items. One item end stream, but end stream, but end the stream. Set not yet, end stream, button.